Hello. Don't know if anybody's out there watching. This is Aaron Lopresti's Wraith of God character. Trying to find the right template. That's too much. I guess I'll shrink his head down just a little bit. So, Aaron Lopresti's character has a new book out. Well, he's making a new book. I'm pretty sure you can get copies of the first one. It's got a contest going on. You'll have to look it up to know the rules and all that stuff for the contest. I'm just kind of playing around with some way out ideas. Doing a lot of erasing and noodling. As is always the case for me, I get one thing I like and then something else I don't like, so I have to noodle around with it for a while. Got the window open, but it's a fairly quiet street, so I don't imagine there's going to be much ruckus. I'm going to do two characters. Once I get this one where I'm happy with it, I'm going to do another character of his, Garbage Man, up top. I've had some ideas about that one. I don't know how he's going to like my interpretation, but I've got an interpretation. He's a wraith, so he's misty. It's one of a couple of campaigns that I backed because I really like the characters and they really look like they're fun stories. looking up some reference. There's never any exact reference, so just got to find something that's as close as you can get. A lot of which consists of old movies. Decided to hold off on the painting stream because this contest has a time limit and the painting doesn't. One great thing about this character is he's dressed in black. And he's a wraith, so inky blackness and a lot of the detail can be left to the imagination. I love the idea that this is kind of a Spectre version of Solomon Kane or something. I need to get some comic books and read them. But I need to make some money before I can do that. So this is my thinking process. I need to have more exciting things to talk about. So far, I really don't. Comics have been crazy lately. I don't know about you, but I could use some normality. Everything is like beyond normal, as if there's something wrong with just a good normalness. It's one of the reasons that I've kind of gotten into the indie stuff is because that's exactly what they're doing, is trying to resurrect the fun stories that were kind of apolitical. There's certain things I don't want to read about. It's not for me. Like, I don't blame anybody that it is for them, but it's just not for me. I really don't think that politics or gender issues or whatever should be the main focus of a comic book anyway. Kind of loses something there. The main focus should be what the good guy is doing, or good woman's doing, hero is doing. And what the cost is. Shouldn't be about what somebody's proclivities are, one way or another. Another thing I like about this particular character is that it doesn't feel like it's remaking somebody else's character. It doesn't feel like somebody else's Hulk or somebody else's Punisher. somebody else's anything. It just feels like this is a character that has their own story. That's kind of important to me. Because stories are important to me. It's odd how much I really like stories that are really good stories. Seems like I've lived my life about stories. And yet I was never a professional comic book artist. And I tattooed people's stories on them. But I did that for so long. That's why I'm not talking about tattoos. I've kind of had my fill. Once in a while, I can be enticed to do one, maybe. But it's definitely not something I want to go back to doing every day, all day long. Oval template. It's almost always guaranteed to be the right size. Let's see if this one is it. I'll know rather quickly if it's not. Gotta be careful to make it not look like a pork pie hat. It's not too good, is it? It's kind of skewed. Let's see if I can fix that. Let's see. Go right up the line. See what we can do. Pretty sure this is where we came in at. I think I'm going to keep this a fairly short stream. I'm just streaming so that I keep it up. I'm just playing because a lot of this will be black. I just want to kind of show motion and show that it's born of fabric, like turning into smoke or turning into ink. And then at a certain point, I want it to be mainly shadow. want it to kind of look like it's laying on the ground or forming a dark cloud at the bottom. But there's a whole bunch of folds and stuff in his leg that I don't want to lose. That's backwards. Sound effects. Anybody else draw and make sound effects with their voice? Something I've pretty much always done. It's a really fun character to draw. Then there's going to be debris because he's not going to be alone. So said he's going to be, the plan is for him to be with Garbage Man because they are both going to be in this comic book and they are both Aaron Lopresti's creations. So I thought it would be cool if they're both here. Hey, Vincent. That is Aaron Lopresti's Wraith of God. He is having an art contest. So if you go to his Indiegogo, Wraith of God Blood Hunters, he'll give you the dimensions and the list of the characters. But it's pretty much going to end at the end of the month. And he wants to kind of display some of the competition next week. I just really like the character. I've drawn it already once. This time I'm going to do two of them. Two of his characters. A lot of this is black, so I can play a whole lot. How's your own stuff been coming? Let's see, post once in a while. I think I saw something recently, but I haven't had a whole lot of time. I've been kind of in and out. So we were talking about age in comic books. Aaron Lopresti and Graham Nolan are guys that were pretty much given that shtick and defied it. And they should, as long as an artist, they should be able to do what they love. Especially if they have a following. These two guys got a following. Deservedly so. For me, worked in a different field for a long, long time. So this was a kind of daydream on the back burner for me. I learned and kept up at it, but this wasn't something I pursued professionally because there was another way that I could actually make money. And it's hard for comic book artists, especially if they're not known and they don't have a following. You have to be something. It's like almost lightning has to strike for you to really get some legs in that business. And nowadays, you don't have to do that. I would say you still have to have your chops. I don't want to take anything away from anybody, but you don't have to be a David Finch or a Jay Fabak or any of those guys to make a living. But you can't quit. And there's that traffic I didn't think would happen. But it's much cooler here right now, so I think I'm going to close that window. Yeah. And the deed is done. Yeah, I think you asked me that last time. I do play around with digital art, but kind of old-fashioned in that I really still like the old-fashioned just drawing on paper. Most of my living I've made by doing quick sketches on paper, so this for me is just noodling around and pretty much playing. Are you getting into digital art? The reason I keep erasing is because I'm just not happy. But since most of this is going to be black, I'm just not really too worried about it. And I can actually scan this in and put this on CSP and then color it later. I don't know if I will. I'm doing this because I'm doing it as kind of a layout. This is the dimensions for a normal comic book. I was talking about making it maybe a card or poster or something. So what program do you have? Somewhere that got turned around. Right there. Yeah, Photoshop. Okay. I don't use Photoshop, so I can't really tell you a whole lot about it. I know a lot of people that do and swear by it. Those that I know that have Photoshop and CSP think Photoshop is a lot harder to learn than CSP because it's more intuitive. CSP is more intuitive. Both of them use layer systems. CSP was built for photos, though, so it wasn't really built to draw and paint. They've manipulated it too. I mean, don't get me wrong, but that's not its initial creation. or purpose. Before I bought a program, I looked into a lot of them. And the one that fit me best and was cheap, well, cheap enough for me to buy and try without feeling like I was losing out on the process or anything in the process. The best option was CSP for me. I think it was like $60 or something. I have not ever tried Krita. Like I said, I kind of did my research and went with CSP, and really haven't looked back. And this, even CSP, I've only been playing with so much. I mean, I should have put a lot more time into it, but I haven't. But in reality, I'm painting with watercolors, painting with acrylics, painting for commissions, doing book covers, writing stories, literally writing stories for publication that I have already been paid for or had down payments put on, or both. So I'm kind of busy for just focusing on one aspect. That's another reason that I like penciling on paper, is that it's so natural to me. I don't have, it's not a lot of setup, not a lot of figuring it out, and not worried about what layers that I want or what type of tools that I'm using. And if you are gonna do like pretty much just if you're gonna do just digital, that's one thing, and more power to you. But I could never do just digital. And I've right at hand, I've got pens for inking. I've got a brand new watercolor palette. Yeah, I've got brand new brushes. Off to my other side, I've got pads and different kinds of paper. So if I want tonal paper or whatever, and I'm really should be laying out some paintings that I know I'm going to get commissioned to do, because the guy that commissioned me for the Cthulhu painting I did 4 sketches, and now he wants the other 3 as paintings too. So fortunately, he doesn't care how I do them, but I want to give him something that he can put on a wall, something archaic and something archival. So I'm probably not going to do those in digital either. I really do like the hands-on approach. Some people are not so much on that. I do like the digital too. I guess another thing is that I have a fairly sizable tablet, and like I couldn't even fit it on this screen. And I don't really have a whole lot of room for it. So I don't have like an iPad or something like that. I have a tablet monitor. I did see, and to be honest with you, I've been thinking about if, depending on uh, how the artwork pays in the recent future, I saw that the Cintiq, one of the larger Cintiqs, has gone on sale for like half of what I was looking at it in the first place as. And I think with a more responsive pen like it has, that I might enjoy that a little bit more. I've got a cheaper tablet and I can't like flick off with the pen and have it get thinner. Um, it just doesn't seem to respond as well. It doesn't seem to respond like that at all. So, like that would maybe change my opinion as far as working on a tablet goes or working on digital more. But until then, it's still it's still gonna paint though. That's there's a joy and a satisfaction and a feeling of accomplishment in uh, just painting. So have you been playing around with your Photoshop program? Playing with the layers and seeing what they do and seeing what the different brushes can do? Cool. Where did you get the brush? Or which brush is it, should I ask? So like one of the Jimmy Reyes brushes or Robert Marzullo brushes. Guessing you're having a blast playing with it. I did when I first got mine. You might want to check out Jimmy's site, Jimmy's Gumroad. That he's got free brushes up there, and Robert Mazzullo's got like 400 free brushes. So there are all kinds of really different effects with the brushes. You can get one pattern sweeping one way and a crosshatch by sweeping the other way without having to worry about every little line. Of course, you could do it whatever way you wanted to, but it's just interesting that you can play with those effects. It's one of the good things about digital is that you can get brushes that give you certain effects. I did pull out the, like once in a while I use the digital to do a draw over. You'll see that on the channel, but I did pull it out the other day to learn how to do lettering in balloons, because it seems like there's a call for that. Like that, I don't know if that's something I'd want to do professionally. They don't get paid a high rate or whatever, but be nice to be able to do that. I think he's got brushes for Photoshop, CSP, and other ones. And Robert Marzullo definitely has them because he uses pretty much every digital tool out there. He does Procreate, he does Photoshop, he does CSP, he does Manga, which is basically the same thing. Manga Shop is basically the same thing as CSP. Like literally, they are the same thing. They just have different titles. I think when you open them up, one of them's paints and brushes and layers are on this side, and the other ones are on this side. So it other than that, they're pretty much the same program. And I know he's used more, but I don't visit his channel that frequently anymore. It's just too many channels to watch, and I've got my brain trying to get information on certain few things right now, so I can only take in so much too. But I definitely think if you're interested in doing those and getting the brushes, you're missing an opportunity if you don't visit Robert Marzullo's Gumroad. David Finch has recommended both of their Gumroads, and I know that I've gotten brushes from both of them for CSP, and Robert Marzullo's brush pack was so huge. There's no way I'd ever use them all. There's just no way. I think it was like 400 brushes or something. But definitely if you're into CSP, that's the thing to, or Photoshop or digital painting, that is the thing to do. Get all the free brushes you can so that you can see what you like. And you're probably not going to like all the brushes that I like. That's one of the cool things about that too. It's just like any art in any medium, like what brushes I use to paint, you may not enjoy those brushes at all. And, some of them I only enjoy sometimes. So, I mean, and when I'm painting, depending on the type of paint I'm using and type of canvas that I'm working on and all that, that's subject to change too. So it's the same thing with digital too. Like, are you going to use, what colors are you going to use? Watercolor? Are you going to use the oil colors? Are you going to use the acrylic? Each one of them, I'm sure is brushes too. So just depends on what you're comfortable with and what can give you the effects that you want to get out of them. That's pretty much true of anything in art, is like everything is subject to how you use it and how it works for you. I can tell you what brushes create a good effect for me for certain things. Like if I was talking about regular painting in acrylic, if I'm doing fog, or if I'm probably doing the same thing in oil, but I haven't really painted fog in oil. But in acrylic, when I'm painting fog, it's a filbert with a dry brush technique, which means I kind of wipe most of the paint back off and then kind of brush in circles, really tap in circles until I get the effect I want to. It wouldn't work if I used a round or if I used a flat. It doesn't give me the same effect. And it might for you, but it just doesn't for me. So no matter who you talk to and what advice you get, always remember that if it doesn't work for you the way that it works for somebody else, you just may have to find the tool that you're more comfortable with. I heard somebody saying the other day that you bend towards the medium, you don't bend the medium toward you. So you have to learn how it works and how you can work with it. But I think that's true to a degree, that the limitations that you have with digital won't be the same limitations that you're likely to have with acrylics or watercolor or whatever. I saw somebody saying too that I think it was actually Jeff Watts with his paint stream with Dave that was saying that you couldn't go back over watercolors. And I have. Like, that's one of the ways that I get my effect is that I can go back over them and I can change the color a little bit and I can reactivate it. And he was like saying that you can't reactivate watercolors. And I was like, really? Because that's what they are. It's like they're water. So, you know, they're water soluble, they're water thinned. And if you can reactivate gouache with water, gouache is basically watercolor. So to each of their own, but I've found that I was able to reactivate and paint over watercolors with watercolor, but you really can't do that with white. And the reason that you can't paint white watercolor over other watercolor colors is because it reactivates the paint and blends. So, what are you going to do, right? I think also he was saying, too, that everybody kind of has to get used to the medium they're working with. Gouache, he used gouache in a way that I wasn't able to actually. Like, I tried to use it the way that he was using it on that stream, and I wasn't trying it along with the stream, but I tried before to thin it out and do a really thin layer and build off of it. That's the way I usually like to paint, but that wasn't something I could do with the gouache. So all this, I'm going to go over this with a black pen and probably then lightbox it and bring it up to a larger size. Only have a limited time, so, and also my wife's birthday is right smack in the middle of that limited time, so more than likely, if I don't lightbox it, I'll just finish this one off and call it good. There's a lot of stiff competition already in this contest, so I'm more doing this just for fun, but I'm trying to do it with an approach that's mine and not copying somebody else. So the references that I'm using are cowboy shows and movies or whatever, not the Wraith of God comic book, because I don't want to be copying him. I do know the basics, so I can play around with it, but funny because when I first did this, I was like, I'm gonna do Garbage Man because it's kind of like a Swamp Thing type figure with a pit type figure combined. So I really kind of want to play around with that, but Wraith of God is the actual comic that he's selling, so if I can get the main character involved with the other character, more power to it. Besides that, it's just all out fun anyway. Like, you don't lose if you do something that you enjoy, right? So I'm probably gonna, after I finish this, then I'm gonna start streaming the painting on Choreograph, which is another comic book I backed. That's Andy Smith's comic book, and I'm really happy with that. And if you're interested, Vincent, he has a how to draw how to draw comic books. Let me grab it so you can see. Drawing dynamic comic books. And this is Andy Smith art. And it covers a whole lot. Like pretty much every aspect that you probably could want to learn about to draw comic books is in here. I just gave it a look through. Just got it the other day, so I really dig the way he did it. Shows different body types. He shows pretty much from really basic shapes and your lines of action to your construction mannequins, to muscles, to more muscles, to finish on several different types of characters, male and female. I do not know if there's a PDF version of it. I ordered mine off of Amazon. I think you can probably find a used copy. I'll have to ask Andy, and I'll get back to you in the channel when I find out. But yeah, it's definitely well worth the money, and it'll help you learn pretty much all the aspects that you want to learn. Now, keep in mind that his style may not be your style, but the construction of it and the composition, and like he really goes into composition and everything. So there's a lot of different elements. He talks about tangents and pretty much everything. So if you're interested in checking out somebody else's version, you're probably going to run across the things that you've already heard of before. But I find that I've been doing this a long time, but I find that if I read a new version of somebody else's way of explaining it, sometimes I'll learn something that I knew, but I didn't realize I knew. So this definitely is benefit, and I definitely would recommend it for anybody that's wanting to learn how to do comics. And Andy's a really good guy too, so he's got a fun attitude. He's got his own YouTube channel too. He really is a fan of comic books, so he's a collector. He breaks down comic books, talks about different artists and their approaches. He learns from still, even after all the time he's been in the industry, he still picks up stuff from his comic book heroes, and he can pull a lot of them off the top of his head. I don't know if I have. Maybe you asked me that before, but I haven't looked it up. I generally try to focus on how-to books by people that either I already admire or like I see something that's really strikes me as impressive. I don't know. I can't answer what I would think of it because I haven't seen it, but I'd be willing to look now that I have the name. Actually, let me write it down before I forget. And I'll look it up after I'm done with this. I wasn't going to be on very long. I was just going to noodle around on this for a little while. But I can kind of get taken away. I'm not really paying attention to time. I'm paying attention to what's happening and what's working and what I like. And do you know what he draws for? Or is it just how to draw comics that you come across from somebody else? I don't know how much of a lag you have or which Ultimate Comics. There's a lot of different guys that did the Ultimate Comics. Let me look them up real quick. Save you the trouble of trying to figure out how to explain them to me. Let's see. I see Superman. Oh, yep, there's a Venom. JLA. Authority. Crime Syndicate. Yeah, that's... Seems like he's more DC from what I'm seeing. I suppose, I mean, most comic artists will draw just about anything, but... Oh, I see a Thor. I don't know if that's interior art or part of something else. No, I think it's interior art now that I look at it. Fantastic Four. So that's probably, yeah, that's, looks like that's where his Thor is from. Yeah, it looks interesting. Kind of looks like kind of looks a little bit like Kevin Nolan's work. At least as far as his lighting goes. Yeah, the Mark Millar he writes for different ones too. But from what I saw doing a quick search, most of the stuff that he's got out is either JLA or Superman or Aquaman or the DC titles. Venom and Fantastic Four with Thor are the Marvel titles I saw. But right now I'm not going to do an exhaustive search, so so you like his work and you've got his drawing book? You don't have it, but you heard some awesome stuff about it. Yeah, pretty much. A lot of artists will pretty much say all they can do is teach you their techniques and the basics. What Andy Smith teaches you in the book that I was recommending is the fundamentals. So he's not telling you have to do his style. He's telling you that to achieve a larger shape, muscle shape, this is one way to do it. To compose, you're composing not just the character in the panel, but the staging in the panel, and you're composing the pages, the panels on the page. Oh, sorry about that. But he goes into kind of the simple do's and don'ts, stuff that's easy to remember, and like nothing is a set rule, but it's something that you can base everything upon. So like you start with this and then you kind of conform it to your way, your methods. It doesn't, he's not trying to teach you to copy him. I don't think any artist should, but most artists, they can really only teach you what they use or what they know. And some of these guys have learned in Kubert School, and some of them have learned, there was a New York school, there was I think a California school. They're more than comics, but they also have, comic training, sequential training. So some people have actually learned that and they learn these techniques, and some people have just learned from looking at other people and drawing, or by somebody walking by and telling them, you don't do it this way, do it this way, and then explaining the reasons as they go. Like David Finch was saying that he learned a lot of that by being in studio. And I've seen other artists that do too. Even Andy Smith learned a lot from Bart Sears because he was working with Bart Sears. So nobody's going to tell you how to draw the right way, just how to achieve composition, panel construction, to eliminate the faux pas that are pretty common in beginners and learners. And Andy covers a lot of that in that book. I mean, if you go through that book and you have any questions, the only other book that I would suggest that you're going to read is, three books is Will Eisner's books, which I always suggest anyone that reads, because he really knew comics inside and out from before comics were comics. So he was there for the birth of what we now think of as comic books. Actually, he was pretty much there for the birth of comic strips. He did wartime comic books to help recruit people. So like he's seen every aspect of how to make comics and how to do comics. I have his three books. One of them really is informative about the basics of comics and the history of comics. One of them is informative about storytelling techniques. And one of them is really a great information source about expressions. So there's none of them that aren't a good thing to grab and read. But I also have a book called Miller Eisner that was put out by Dark Horse. Oh, Eisner Miller, sorry. Because it's a conversation between Will Eisner and Frank Miller. And the two of them are very similar in the way they represent their stories. Both of them were predominantly black and white artists, even though a lot of their stories are colored. Both of them have very theatrical approaches. Will Eisner's been around a long time, and he said that he's gone from thinking of comics as still movies to thinking of them as still stage plays, like theater. And that's an interesting aspect. But what he means by that is if you're thinking about comics as a still movie, you have down shots, you have up shots, you have side shots, you have medium shots, you have close-up shots, and all that. But if you're thinking of it as more of theater or a play, when you watch a play, you're viewing everything from one angle. It doesn't change angles. You're not looking at a down shot unless you're in the balcony seat. But if you're looking at the play at a down shot in the balcony seat, that's how you watch the whole play. If you are to the right of the stage, you are looking up, it's an up shot. That's how you watch the whole play. If you're somewhere in the middle, same thing. I mean, you're watching the whole play that way, which is really an interesting theory because most of us that have gotten into comics or getting into comics nowadays are pretty much where the idea is pushed on us that you have to have a whole bunch of different angles and all that. And it's really good to be able to draw those different angles, but I see the value in showing it from one point of view too. Those are different things, like the theories behind how Miller and Eisner approach comic books basically represent some of the old guard and some of the new guard, and there's much to be learned from either side that you can apply. So while you're looking at like books like Andy Smith's book or Brian Hitch's book or any of the books we've been talking about, you got to keep in mind that times change and how you view a story changes and how you want to tell a story. Like if you're telling somebody else's story, if you're the artist and you're telling somebody else's story, they're pretty much going to let you know how they want it. But if you're telling your story, you have complete control over how it's represented. And nobody can really tell you this is the wrong way to show it or the wrong way to say it or whatever. Just remember that everything that we do in storytelling is to make sure that we're clear, that we're not confused. Like we want to make sure it's clear what's going on in a picture, what's going on in the story. So that the reader and the viewer don't get confused. That's really what we're working towards, is clarification. You want believability and clarification. I mean, they're going to have to suspend their disbelief unless it's a true story or written in a world where there's no superpowers or no monsters or whatever. But there is a degree of believability that people will accept and unbelievability that they won't. All right, now that I've completely bored everybody that it was ever going to happen on this video, it's after midnight here. So actually I'm coming up on the 2-hour mark, and that's not what I intended to do. I intended to just have a short little thing. I might draw for 20 more minutes, just to make it an even 2 hours. Really, I just want to clean this stuff up before I quit, because I'm not a quitter. All right, I guess. I'm not going to make it that much longer. Anyone that stopped by and checked out this video, thank you. If you like the information you got or the conversation, please hit like and follow, because I definitely need followers, subscribers. And enjoy the rest of your evening, day, whatever it is.